Dr. Emily Watson rubbed her tired eyes and looked at the computer screen again. The numbers had not changed. After working at the Arecibo Research Station for 15 years, she thought she had seen everything the universe could throw at Earth's radio telescopes. She was wrong. The signal had appeared 3 days ago during her night shift. At first, Emily thought it was just background noise from a distant star. But when she ran the data through the analysis computer, something strange happened. The signal was not random noise, it was organized, it was purposeful, and it was coming from a place that should not exist. Emily pulled up the star maps on her second monitor. According to every chart she had, the signal was coming from empty space. There were no stars, no planets, and no known objects in that region of space. It was what astronomers called a void, a place where nothing existed for millions of light years. She leaned back in her chair and stared at the ceiling. The research station was quiet at this hour. Most of her colleagues had gone home hours ago. Only the night security guard and the computer systems kept her company in the large building. The signal itself was even stranger than its impossible location. When Emily fed the data into the mathematical analysis program, the computer found patterns that made no sense. The signal contained what appeared to be mathematical equations, but these equations solved problems that humanity had been working on for hundreds of years. Emily had studied mathematics and physics for most of her adult life. She knew the difference between random patterns and real mathematical proofs. This signal contained real mathematics, but it used principles that seemed to break the basic laws of physics. She picked up her phone and called Dr. Michael Reed. Michael worked in the theoretical physics department at the nearby university. He was one of the smartest people Emily knew, and more importantly, he was one of the few scientists who would listen to crazy ideas without laughing. The phone rang 4 times before Michael answered. His voice was groggy with sleep. "Emily, do you know what time it is?" "Michael, I need you to come to the station. I found something that will change everything we know about the universe." There was a long pause on the other end of the phone. "Emily, you call me at 2 in the morning with big discoveries about once a month. Usually it turns out to be equipment problems or interference from satellites. This is different, Michael. I have been checking and rechecking the data for 3 days. The equipment is working perfectly. This signal is real, and it is impossible." Michael sighed. "What kind of impossible?" "The kind where the signal is coming from empty space and contains mathematical proofs that use physics principles we have never discovered." Another long pause. "I will be there in 30 minutes. Emily spent the next half hour organizing her data. She printed out the signal analysis, the mathematical breakdowns, and the star charts. She also made a fresh pot of coffee. She had a feeling this was going to be a very long night. Michael arrived looking like he had just rolled out of bed, which he probably had. His gray hair was messy, and he was wearing a wrinkled shirt and jeans. But his eyes were alert and curious. That was one thing Emily loved about working with Michael. No matter how tired or busy he was, he always got excited about new scientific discoveries. "Show me what you have," Michael said, settling into the chair next to Emily's workstation. Emily pulled up the signal data on the main monitor. "This started 3 days ago. The signal appears to be artificial, not natural." Michael studied the wavelength patterns on the screen. "It does look artificial. Where is it coming from?" Emily switched to the star chart display. "That is the first impossible thing. According to our maps, it is coming from this region." She pointed to an area of the chart that showed nothing but black space. "That is a known void region," Michael said, frowning. "There is nothing there." "That is what I thought too. But watch this." Emily switched back to the signal analysis. "When I run the signal through the mathematical analysis program, I get this. The screen filled with complex equations and mathematical symbols." Michael leaned forward, his eyes scanning the formulas. "These look like solutions to unified field theory problems." he said slowly. But these approaches, I have never seen mathematics like this before. Keep reading, Emily said. Michael spent the next 20 minutes going through the mathematical analysis. His frown grew deeper with each page. Emily, these equations solve problems that our best scientists have been working on for decades. But they use mathematical principles that, well, that seem to violate everything we know about physics. That is the second impossible thing, Emily said. The mathematics works. I checked it 12 different ways, but it should not work according to our understanding of how the universe operates. Michael sat back in his chair, looking stunned. You are sure the equipment is working correctly? I ran every diagnostic test we have. The equipment is fine. I also cross-checked the signal with the backup receivers. They are all picking up the same thing. This is... Michael started, then stopped. He ran his hands through his messy hair. Emily, if this data is correct, then either our understanding of physics is completely wrong, or we are receiving a message from someone who knows more about the universe than we do. Emily nodded. There is one more thing, something that makes this even more impossible. She pulled up another data file on her computer. I ran the signal through our historical database to see if we had ever detected anything similar before. I found something interesting. The screen showed a timeline of radio transmissions from Earth going back 60 years. In 1977, we sent a mathematical message into space as part of the SETI program. The message contained basic mathematical concepts and some of our best physics equations. It was aimed at this exact region of space. Michael stared at the screen. You are saying, the signal we are receiving appears to be a response to that 1977 transmission. But Michael, that message would have taken 43 years to reach the void region, and a response would take another 43 years to get back to us. 86 years total, Michael said quietly. But you said this signal started 3 days ago. Exactly. Even if there was something in that void region, and even if they responded immediately to our 1977 message, we should not receive their response until 2063. The two scientists sat in silence for several minutes, staring at the impossible data on the computer screen. Finally, Michael spoke. Emily, I think we need to call some people. This is bigger than just the two of us. Emily nodded. Who do we call when we discover that everything we know about the universe might be wrong? We start with the department head and work our way up, Michael said. Because if this data is real, then humanity is about to learn that we are not alone in the universe. And whoever is out there is far more advanced than we ever imagined. 3 months after Emily Watson discovered the impossible signal, everything changed for humanity. The news had traveled from the Arecibo research station to the highest levels of government and scientific organizations around the world. What nobody expected was that the news would also travel beyond Earth. Ambassador Thek stood in the central monitoring room of Station Kepler 7, one of the most advanced observation posts in the galaxy. The tall, blue-skinned alien had served the Galactic Scientific Consortium for over 200 years. In all that time, he had never seen data that made him question everything he thought he knew about the universe. The report on his desk contained information that should have been impossible. The primitive species from the third planet of the Sol system had not only detected the test signal, but they had also begun sending responses that demonstrated knowledge of advanced physics principles. Director Thex, called Science Officer Varn from across the room. We are receiving another transmission from the Sol system. The mathematics are even more complex than the previous ones. Thex walked over to the monitoring station where Varn was analyzing the incoming data. The equations displayed on the screen made both aliens pause in confusion. These solutions, Varn said slowly, they solve quantum mechanics problems that our best scientists have been working on for 50 years. But look at the approach they are using. Thex studied the mathematical formulas. The humans were using techniques that were completely foreign to established galactic scientific methods. Their approach seemed chaotic and random, but it produced results that were undeniably correct. How is this possible? Thex asked. According to our records, this species discovered radio waves only 130 of their years ago. They should not have advanced quantum mathematics for at least another 1,000 years. That is what makes this so unusual, Varn replied. Every species in the galaxy follows predictable development patterns. They discover fire, then metals, then electricity, then atomic theory, then space travel. The progression is always the same, and it always takes the same amount of time. But not these humans, Thex said. Not these humans, Varn agreed. They seem to make intuitive leaps that skip entire stages of normal scientific development. Look at this equation here. They solved this without first solving the 3 prerequisite problems that should come before it. Thex felt a chill run through his body. In his 2 centuries of service, he had learned that when a species developed too quickly, it usually meant trouble for the rest of the galaxy. Send an emergency message to the Galactic Council, Thex ordered. We need to convene an immediate session. 2 weeks later, Commander Lisa Park sat in a transport ship heading toward the most important meeting in human history. She was a career military officer who had spent the last 10 years working with NASA on deep space exploration projects. When the government needed someone to represent Earth at something called the Galactic Council, her name was at the top of the list. Lisa still could not believe that aliens were real, let alone that she was about to meet with them. The last few months had been the strangest of her life. First came the discovery of the signal, then the government meetings, then the secret preparations for first contact. The transport ship was unlike anything humans had ever built. It moved through space using principles that Earth scientists did not understand. The alien crew members were polite but distant. They seemed nervous about something, though Lisa could not figure out what. "Commander Park," said Captain Zoran, the ship's commander. "We are approaching Council Station. Prepare for arrival." Lisa looked out the window and saw a structure that was larger than anything she had ever imagined. The space station was the size of a small moon, with thousands of docking bays and what looked like entire cities built into its surface. "How many people live here?" Lisa asked. "Approximately 50 million beings from over 300 different species," Zoran replied. "This is the center of galactic civilization." An hour later, Lisa found herself in a massive chamber filled with hundreds of alien beings. Some looked almost human, while others were so strange that Lisa had trouble understanding how they could be alive. The chamber was arranged like an ancient amphitheater, with seats rising in circles around a central platform. Ambassador Thex approached the platform and began to speak. His words were automatically translated into English through a device Lisa wore in her ear. "Fellow members of the Council," Thex said, "we face an unprecedented situation. The species from Sol 3, who call themselves humans, have accomplished something that challenges our understanding of intelligent development." A murmur ran through the assembled aliens. Lisa noticed that many of them were staring at her with expressions she could not read. Thex continued. 3 months ago, we detected their response to test signal Omega-7. For those who do not remember, Omega-7 was designed to be undetectable by any species below Level 5 technological advancement. "And these humans are only Level 2, called out another alien from the crowd. "Correct," Thex replied. "But they did more than detect it. They understood it, analyzed it, and sent back responses that demonstrate mastery of physics principles that most Level 4 civilizations struggle with." Lisa stood up from her seat. "Excuse me," she said, her voice carrying across the chamber. "Nobody told me about any test signals. Are you saying that you have been testing us?" The chamber fell, silent. Hundreds of alien eyes focused on Lisa. "Commander Park," Thex said carefully, "for the past 1,000 years, the Galactic Council has sent test signals to developing civilizations. These tests help us identify species that show exceptional problem-solving abilities." Why? Lisa asked. Another alien, this one tall and thin with silver skin, stood up. Because across the galaxy, there are mysteries that have puzzled our greatest minds for thousands of years. Ancient structures that seem to violate physics. Technologies that operate on principles we cannot understand. Phenomena that challenge the very nature of reality. We have been searching for a species that might possess the unique cognitive abilities needed to solve these cosmic puzzles, Thex added. Most civilizations develop in predictable ways. They follow established paths of scientific discovery. But sometimes, rarely, we find a species that thinks differently. And you think we are one of those species? Lisa asked. Commander Park, said the silver-skinned alien, in 3 months, your people have solved mathematical problems that have stumped our best scientists for centuries. You approach these problems in ways we would never consider. Your minds work differently than ours. Lisa looked around the chamber at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. What exactly are you asking us to do? Thex stepped forward. We are asking humanity to help us solve the greatest mysteries in the galaxy. Ancient puzzles that have remained unsolved for millennia. In exchange, we offer you membership in the Galactic Council, access to advanced technology and knowledge of the universe beyond your wildest dreams. But, added the silver-skinned alien, you should know that these mysteries have driven some of our greatest scientists to madness. They are the problems that keep researchers awake at night, wondering if there are forces in the universe that are beyond all understanding. Lisa felt the weight of the decision settling on her shoulders. She was not just choosing for herself, but for all of humanity. How long do I have to give you an answer? She asked. The first mystery site is only 2 days' travel from here, Thex replied. We would like to begin immediately. Lisa looked out at the alien faces surrounding her. Some seemed hopeful, others appeared worried, and a few looked almost afraid. I need to consult with my government, she said finally. Of course, Thex replied. But Commander, remember that your species has already shown us that they can see solutions where others see only problems. That is a rare gift in this galaxy. 2 weeks after Commander Lisa Park returned to Earth with news of the Galactic Council, Dr. James Sullivan found himself aboard an alien spacecraft heading toward the first mystery site. He still could not believe how quickly everything had changed. One day, he was a regular archaeologist studying ancient civilizations on Earth, and now he was part of the most important expedition in human history. The ship carrying the Joint Human-Alien Research Team was enormous. It housed 50 scientists from 12 different alien species, along with 5 humans who had been specially selected for the mission. Besides James, the human team included Dr. Rebecca Torres, a marine biologist, Dr. David Chen, a physicist, Dr. Amanda Price, a mathematician, and Dr. Kevin Thompson, a computer engineer. James stood in the observation deck looking out at their destination. The structure they were approaching was impossible to describe in simple terms. It was larger than Earth's moon and made of materials that seemed to shift and change color as he watched. The structure orbited a dead star that had burned out millions of years ago, yet somehow the artifact was generating enormous amounts of energy. First time seeing a Class 1 mystery site? Asked Dr. Kelvin, the expedition's lead scientist. Kelvin belonged to a species called the Axari. He looked somewhat like a tall human, but his skin was pale green and his eyes were completely black. It is incredible, James replied. How long has it been here? Our best estimates suggest it is older than the universe itself, Kelvin said, which should be impossible, of course. James turned to look at the alien scientist. Older than the universe? How is that possible? That is one of the many questions we hope to answer, Kelvin replied. This structure generates energy from nothing, violates the basic laws of thermodynamics, and seems to exist partially outside normal space and time. We have been studying it for over 3,000 years without success. The ship docked with the mysterious structure through an airlock that had somehow appeared exactly where they needed it. James followed the team of scientists through corridors that seemed to stretch infinitely in all directions. The walls were covered with patterns that hurt to look at directly. "Stay close to the group," warned Dr. Yentara, another alien scientist. "Previous expedition members have gotten lost in these corridors. Some were never found again." The team made their way to what the aliens called the central chamber. It was a vast space filled with objects that defied description. Some looked like machines, others resembled living creatures, and still others seemed to be made of pure energy. "Welcome to our research center," Kelvin said, gesturing to a collection of scientific equipment that had been set up around the chamber. "We have been working here for decades, trying to understand how this structure operates." James looked around at the alien equipment. Everything seemed incredibly advanced, but he noticed something strange. All of the research was focused on the mechanical and technological aspects of the structure. "Dr. Kelvin," James said, "have you considered that this might not be a machine at all?" The alien scientists stopped their work and turned to look at. What do you mean?" Kelvin asked. "I am an archaeologist," James explained. "I study ancient civilizations. When I look at these patterns on the walls and these objects in the chamber, they remind me of something I have seen before." Dr. Rebecca Torres, who had been examining one of the energy formations, walked over to join the conversation. "James, what are you thinking?" "Rebecca, you study marine biology," James said. "Look at the way these corridor systems branch out. Does that pattern remind you of anything?" Rebecca looked around the chamber with new eyes. Suddenly, her face lit up with understanding. "Neural networks," she said. "The corridor layout looks like the neural pathways in a brain." "Exactly," James replied. "And look at these objects in the center. They are not machines. They are organs." The alien scientists looked confused. Dr. Kelvin shook his head. "That is impossible. This structure is made of materials we do not recognize. It generates energy through unknown processes. It cannot be biological." "What if it is biological, but from a form of life we do not understand?" Rebecca suggested. "On Earth, we have discovered life forms that exist in conditions we once thought were impossible. Life that thrives in boiling water, in acid, even in the vacuum of space." Dr. David Chen joined the discussion. "If this is some kind of living creature, that would explain the energy generation. It might be using biological processes that operate on quantum levels." "But it is older than the universe," protested Dr. Yentara. "How could a living creature be older than the universe itself?" James thought about this problem. "What if it is not from this universe?" The chamber fell silent. Even the alien scientists, who had seen wonders beyond human imagination, looked shocked at the suggestion. "You are suggesting it came from a previous universe?" Kelvin asked slowly. "Think about it," James said. "We know the universe goes through cycles. It expands, then contracts, then begins again. What if some forms of life can survive the transition?" "From one universe to the next?" Rebecca nodded excitedly. "That would make this a fossil. Not a fossil of bones or shells, but a fossil of an entire living creature from the universe that existed before ours." Dr. Amanda Price, who had been quietly analyzing the mathematical patterns in the structure, suddenly spoke up. "The energy patterns support that theory. I have been trying to understand how this structure generates power from nothing. But if it is a fossilized organism from a previous universe, then it is not creating energy from nothing. It is releasing energy that was stored during the previous cosmic cycle." The alien scientists looked at each other with expressions of amazement and disbelief. Dr. Kelvin approached one of the wall patterns and examined it with new understanding. "If you are correct," he said slowly, "then this changes everything we thought we knew about the history of existence itself." Dr. Kevin Thompson had been working with the alien computers, trying to understand the data they had collected over thousands of years. "I have been looking at your research data," he said to Kelvin. "You have been trying to understand this structure by analyzing its technology and materials, but you never considered biological analysis." "Because we assumed it was artificial," Kelvin replied. "What if we run biological scans instead of technological ones?" Kevin suggested. The team spent the next several hours setting up new scanning equipment. Instead of looking for mechanical components, they searched for biological signatures. What they found amazed everyone. The structure was indeed alive, or had been alive. It had organs, circulation systems, and what appeared to be a massive brain. But it was a form of life unlike anything that existed in the current universe. "This creature," Rebecca said, studying the scan results. "It was enormous. The part we are exploring is just a small section of what was once a living being the size of a solar system. And it survived the death of the previous universe by entering some kind of suspended animation," James added. "What we are seeing now is its fossilized remains, still holding energy from the cosmos that came before ours." Dr. Kelvin sat down heavily in a nearby chair. "In 3 days, you humans have solved a mystery that has puzzled our greatest minds for 3,000 years. It is not that we are smarter than you," James said. "We just approached the problem differently. You assumed it was technology because that is how your civilizations develop. But humans evolved from biological systems, so we naturally think about biological solutions first. This discovery will change galactic science forever," Dr. Yentara said. "If there are fossilized remains of universe-scale life forms throughout the galaxy, then we need to completely rethink cosmic history." As the team prepared to return to their ship with the groundbreaking discovery, James realized that this was just the beginning. If humans could solve one ancient mystery in just a few days, what other cosmic puzzles were waiting for their unique perspective? "Dr. Kelvin," James said, "you mentioned there were other mystery sites." "Many others," Kelvin replied, "each more puzzling than the last." James smiled. For the first time in his career, he felt like he was working on mysteries that truly mattered to the entire universe. "Then let's go solve them." 6 months after solving the mystery of the ancient fossilized creature, Dr. David Chen found himself facing something even more impossible. He stood on the observation deck of the research vessel Galileo, staring down at a planet that should not exist according to everything he knew about physics. The planet below them was called Mindros by the galactic community. It was the second mystery site that the joint human-alien team had been asked to investigate. What made Mindros special was not its size or location, but what happened when thinking beings visited its surface. "Dr. Chen," called Captain Torres from across the deck. Rebecca had been promoted to expedition leader after their success at the first mystery site. "Are you ready for the briefing?" David nodded and followed Rebecca to the conference room where the rest of the team was waiting. Dr. Amanda Price sat at the table reviewing mathematical calculations, while Dr. Kevin Thompson worked on his portable computer. The alien members of the team looked more nervous than usual. Dr. Kelvin began the briefing. "Mindros has been studied by our scientists for over 2,000 years. What makes this planet unique is that consciousness itself seems to alter physical reality here." "What do you mean by that?" David asked. "On Mindros," explained Dr. Yentara, "thoughts become matter. If a visitor thinks about water, water appears. If they imagine a mountain forms. The act of observation does not just change quantum states like in normal physics. Here, observation changes everything." Amanda looked up from her calculations. "That violates fundamental laws of physics. Matter cannot be created from nothing just by thinking about it." "Yet it happens on Mindros," Kelvin replied. "We have documented thousands of cases. Entire cities have been built just by thinking about them. Landscapes change based on the mental state of visitors. Some expeditions have created new forms of life simply by imagining them." How is that possible? Kevin asked. That is what we have been trying to understand for 2 millennia, Dr. Yantara said. Our best theories suggest that consciousness on Mindros somehow accesses deeper layers of quantum reality, but we have never been able to prove how or why. Rebecca leaned forward. What happens when multiple people think about different things at the same time? Chaos, Kelvin said simply. The reality becomes unstable. That is why we can only send small teams to the surface, and why visitors must undergo mental training before landing. Have you ever considered, David said slowly, that consciousness might not be changing reality at all? The room fell silent. All eyes turned to David. What do you mean? Rebecca asked. What if consciousness is not changing reality, but revealing that reality was never as fixed as we believed? David explained. On Earth, we have learned that quantum mechanics shows us a universe where observation affects outcomes. What if Mindros simply takes that principle to its logical extreme? Amanda nodded thoughtfully. David might be onto something. In quantum physics, the act of measurement changes the quantum state. But we always assumed that only applied to very small particles. What if it applies to everything, but most planets have some kind of dampening field that prevents us from noticing? David continued. What if Mindros lacks that dampening field? Dr. Kelvin looked confused. You are suggesting that all reality is actually malleable, but most places hide this fact? Think about it, David said. Humans have chaotic and unpredictable thought patterns compared to most species. Our minds jump from idea to idea in ways that seem random. What if that randomness actually helps us tap into quantum layers of reality that more orderly minds cannot access? The team spent the next day preparing for their descent to Mindros. David and Amanda would lead the investigation, while the others remained on the ship to monitor the situation. The alien scientists had provided them with mental training designed to keep their thoughts focused and controlled. The surface of Mindros looked like a normal planet when they first landed. There were plains, hills, and forests that seemed completely ordinary. But within minutes of stepping onto the surface, David noticed small changes happening around them. Amanda, he said, pointing to a nearby tree. Watch that tree carefully. As they observed the tree, it slowly began to change. The leaves shifted color, the trunk grew taller, and flowers appeared on branches that had been bare moments before. Ray. Are changing it just by looking at it, Amanda said in amazement. No, David replied. I think we are seeing what it really is. Remember, quantum mechanics tells us that particles exist in multiple states until observed. What if everything exists in multiple states, but most places force a single reality? They spent hours on the planet's surface, conducting experiments. David discovered that when he focused his mind in certain ways, he could indeed seem to create objects from nothing. But the mathematics Amanda was recording suggested something different. David, Amanda called from her equipment station, look at these quantum field readings. When you create something, you are not actually creating new matter. You are shifting existing matter from probability states into physical reality. So the matter was always there? David asked. In a sense, yes. It existed as quantum probability until your consciousness collapsed it into a specific form. But here is the strange part. Your consciousness seems to be accessing quantum layers that should be impossible to reach. David thought about this discovery. What if human consciousness naturally operates on multiple quantum levels? Most species evolved on planets with strong dampening fields, so they never developed the ability to access deep quantum layers. But humans evolved on Earth, which might have a weaker dampening field. That would explain why humans make intuitive leaps that other species find impossible, Amanda added. We are unconsciously processing quantum probability information. Over the next several days, the team conducted extensive experiments. They discovered that human consciousness could indeed access quantum layers of reality that were invisible to other species. The alien scientists were amazed to learn that what they had thought was consciousness, changing reality, was actually consciousness, revealing the true quantum nature of all existence. This changes everything we understand about the nature of reality, Dr. Kelvin said when they reported their findings. If consciousness can access quantum probability layers, then the universe is far stranger and more wonderful than we ever imagined. David smiled as he looked out at the planet below. And this is only the second mystery site. I wonder what else we are going to discover about the nature of existence itself. 1 year after their discovery on Mindros, Dr. Sarah Mitchell stood before the largest structure she had ever seen. The Dyson ring stretched completely around a massive star, creating a perfect circle of metal and energy that was visible from several solar systems away. But this was not just any Dyson ring. This was one of the builder constructs, and it was older than galactic civilization itself. Captain Robert Hayes, who now led the expanded human-alien expedition, walked up beside Sarah as she studied the massive structure through the observation window of their ship. "First time seeing a builder construct?" Robert asked. "It is incredible," Sarah replied. "How did they build something this large?" "That is one of the smaller mysteries about the builders," said Dr. Kelvin, who had remained with the team after their previous successes. "The larger mystery is what happened to them." The expedition ship Horizon carried the largest research team yet assembled. Besides the original human team, they now had representatives from 15 different alien species, all working together to solve the greatest mystery in the galaxy. Dr. Kevin Thompson joined them at the observation window. "I have been analyzing the data we collected from the other builder sites," he said. "I think I am beginning to see a pattern." "What kind of pattern?" Sarah asked. "The builders did not just build random megastructures," Kevin explained. "Everything they created seems to be connected. The Dyson rings, the galactic transport networks, the time manipulation devices. They are all parts of a single galaxy-spanning system." Robert turned to look at Kevin with interest. "You think all of these structures work together?" "I think they were designed to work together," Kevin replied. "But they were never finished. The builders disappeared before they could complete their project." Dr. Amanda Price, who had been working with the alien mathematicians, approached the group. "Kevin might be right. I have been analyzing the energy flow patterns between different builder sites. There are clear connections, but the network is incomplete." "What kind of network requires galaxy-spanning construction?" Sarah asked. "The kind that is designed to solve an impossible problem," said Dr. Yentara, the alien physicist. "We have found references in some builder sites to something they called the final calculation." The team spent the next week exploring the Dyson ring. The structure was so large that their ship seemed like a tiny insect flying around a giant wheel. The ring contained cities that could house billions of beings, factories that could build starships by the thousands, and computers that were larger than planets. But everywhere they went, they found the same thing. The structures were incomplete. Massive construction projects had been abandoned halfway through. Computer systems that should have been running for millions of years were turned off. It was as if the builders had simply stopped working and vanished. "Look at this," Sarah called from a control room they had discovered. She was examining what appeared to be a massive computer terminal. These computers were designed to run calculations on a scale I have never seen before. Kevin walked over to study the terminal. As a computer engineer, he could recognize advanced systems even when they were built by alien technology. "This is not just a computer," he said. "This is part of a distributed processing network. All of the builder sites are connected to share processing power." "Processing power for what?" Robert asked. "I think I know," said Dr. Emily Watson, who had joined the expedition after her original signal discovery. She had been studying builder mathematics at several sites. "I have found calculation fragments at every builder location. They are all working on the same problem. What problem? Amanda asked. Emily pulled up holographic displays showing complex mathematical equations. They were trying to reverse entropy. The room fell silent. Even the alien scientists, who had seen impossible things, looked shocked. Reverse entropy? Dr. Kelvin said slowly. That would mean stopping the heat death of the universe. Not just stopping it, Emily corrected. Reversing it completely, making the universe young again. Sarah stared at the equations floating in the air. Is that even possible? The mathematics suggest it might be, Emily replied, but the calculations required would need the processing power of every computer in the galaxy working together for millions of years. Which is exactly what the builders were trying to build, Kevin said with growing excitement. A galaxy-wide computer network capable of solving the entropy reversal equation. Robert looked around at the abandoned construction projects visible through the control room windows. But they did not finish it. No, Amanda said sadly. According to the timeline data we have found, they ran out of time. The universe aged faster than they expected, and their civilization collapsed before they could complete the network. But their work is still here, Sarah pointed out. The network they built, even though it is incomplete, it is still functional, Kevin nodded. I have been thinking about that. With some modifications and additions, we might be able to complete what the builders started. Complete a galaxy-spanning computer network? Dr. Yentara asked. That would require cooperation from every intelligent species in the galaxy, and processing techniques that no single species has developed, Emily added. But we have been learning that human thinking patterns complement alien knowledge in unexpected ways. Sarah looked out at the massive Dyson ring stretching into the distance. You are talking about the biggest construction project in the history of the universe. Yes, Kevin replied. But if we succeed, we could save every star, every planet, and every living being in the galaxy from the heat death of the universe. Robert felt the weight of the decision before them. This is bigger than just solving a mystery. This is about the survival of everything that exists. The builders started this project because they knew that without intervention, all life in the universe would eventually end, Emily said. They sacrificed everything trying to prevent that fate. And now we have the chance to finish what they started, Amanda added. Sarah turned away from the window and looked at her colleagues. How long do we have? According to the builder calculations, Emily replied, the universe is aging faster than anyone realized. Without intervention, all stars will burn out within a few million years instead of billions. A few million years sounds like a long time, Robert said. It is not, Dr. Kelvin replied grimly. On a galactic scale, a few million years is barely enough time to organize a project of this magnitude. Kevin pulled up displays showing the incomplete builder network. But we have advantages the builders did not have. We have the cooperation of hundreds of species. We have the accumulated knowledge of galactic civilization, and we have human problem-solving abilities that can find solutions other species might miss. Sarah looked at the massive construction projects surrounding them. If we do this, if we try to complete the builder network, there is no guarantee of success. But if we do not try, Emily said quietly, then everything ends. Every species, every world, every achievement of galactic civilization will be forgotten when the last star burns out. Robert made the decision that would change the course of galactic history. Then we try. We finish what the builders started, and we save the universe. The expedition team stood together in the abandoned builder control room, surrounded by the incomplete dreams of a civilization that had died, trying to save everything that would ever exist. The builder's legacy, Sarah said, is not just these structures. It is the hope that someone would come after them and finish the work. And now that someone is us, Kevin added, as they prepared to return to galactic civilization with news. Of their discovery, none of them could imagine the challenges that lay ahead. Completing the builder network would require not just cooperation between species, but cooperation on a scale that had never been attempted in galactic history. But for the first time since the project began, they had hope that the mysteries that kept scientists awake at night might finally lead to solutions that could save everything they held dear. 5 years after discovering the Builder Network, Dr. Emily Watson stood in the most advanced control center ever constructed. The Galactic Coordination Station orbited the center of the galaxy, managing the largest cooperative project in the history of existence. Through the observation windows, she could see construction ships from hundreds of different species working together to complete the ancient Builder Network. Emily was now 73 years old, but her mind was as sharp as ever. The work of the past 5 years had aged all of them, but it had also brought species together in ways that had seemed impossible before the crisis began. "Dr. Watson," called Dr. Kevin Thompson from across the control center. "The final calculations are ready for review." Emily walked over to the massive holographic display where Kevin and the other team members were gathered. The equations floating in the air represented 5 years of work by the greatest minds in the galaxy, both human and alien. "Are we certain this will work?" asked Dr. Amanda Price, who now served as the project's chief mathematician. "The mathematics are sound," replied Dr. Kelvin, "but we have never attempted anything like this before." Captain Robert Hayes, who now held the title of project coordinator, looked tired but determined. "We have come too far to turn back now. Every species in the galaxy has contributed to this project." Emily studied the final equation set. The mathematics were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. If they were correct, the completed Builder Network would be able to reverse the entropy of the entire universe, essentially making all of existence young again. "The network is operational," reported Dr. Sarah Mitchell from the engineering station. "All Builder sites have been connected and upgraded. We have processing power that exceeds anything the original builders could have imagined. But," added Dr. Rebecca Torres, "we still need the final input sequence. Without that, all of this processing power is useless." Emily nodded. This was the problem that had kept her awake for the past year. The Builder Network was complete and ready to run the entropy reversal calculation, but the final piece of the mathematical puzzle remained unsolved. "The issue," Emily explained to the assembled team, "is that the entropy reversal equation requires an input that describes the quantum state of every particle in the universe simultaneously, which should be impossible to calculate," said Dr. Yentara. "Unless," Emily continued, "we approach the problem the way humans naturally think." She walked over to a smaller display and began entering new equations. "For the past 5 years, we have been trying to solve this problem using linear mathematics. We have been trying to calculate the quantum state of each particle individually. Because that is the logical approach," Dr. Kelvin said. "But humans do not always think logically," Emily replied. "We make intuitive leaps. We see patterns that others miss. We solve problems by thinking about them in ways that seem impossible." Dr. David Chen, who had been quietly working at another station, suddenly looked up. "Emily, are you suggesting we use quantum consciousness techniques?" "Exactly," Emily said. "Remember what we learned on Mindros? Human consciousness can access quantum layers of reality that other species cannot reach." Amanda began to understand. "You want to use human consciousness to directly access the quantum state information instead of calculating it." "The universe already knows its own quantum state," Emily explained. "We do not need to calculate it. We just need to access it." Kevin stared at the equations. That would require human minds to interface directly with the Builder Network. "How many human minds?" Robert asked. Emily hesitated before answering. "All of them." The control center fell silent. The implications of what Emily was suggesting were staggering. "You want every human being to link their consciousness to the network?" Dr. Yentara asked. "The quantum consciousness effect only works when human minds operate together," Emily explained. Individual humans can access small amounts of quantum information, but when human consciousness operates as a collective, the effect is amplified exponentially. That would put 8 billion human minds at risk, Robert said quietly. But it might be the only way to save everyone in the universe, Emily replied. The debate that followed lasted for hours. The risks were enormous. If something went wrong with the consciousness interface, humanity could be permanently damaged or destroyed. But without the quantum consciousness input, the entropy reversal project would fail, and the universe would eventually die. I have been thinking about this problem for months, Emily said finally. The Builder network is not just a computer system. It is designed to interface with consciousness itself. The builders understood that some problems cannot be solved through calculation alone. They expected their descendants to use consciousness interfaces, Sarah realized. But the builders were not human, Dr. Kelvin pointed out. Their consciousness operated differently than yours. Which is why they failed, Emily said. They built a network designed for consciousness integration, but their consciousness was too orderly, too logical. They could not access the deep quantum layers needed for the final calculation. But human consciousness can, David added. Emily nodded. Chaotic human thinking patterns, when linked together through the network, should be able to access quantum information directly from the universe itself. Over the next several weeks, the team developed the consciousness interface system. It would allow every human being on Earth to link their mind to the Builder network for the few minutes needed to run the entropy reversal calculation. The interface is ready, Kevin reported. But Emily, you understand that we will only get one chance at this. If the calculation fails, the network will overload and be destroyed. And if we do not try, Emily replied, then everything ends. Anyway. The day of the final test arrived. Emily stood in the control center, wearing the consciousness interface headset that would link her mind to the network. Around the galaxy, 8 billion humans were preparing to do the same thing. Network synchronization at 90%, Sarah reported. Quantum field generators online, Amanda called out. All builder sites reporting ready, Kevin announced. Emily took a deep breath. Begin consciousness integration. Suddenly, Emily could feel the minds of every human being connected to the network. It was overwhelming at first, but then she began to sense the pattern. 8 billion human minds, all thinking chaotically and randomly, but somehow working together to access information that existed at the deepest levels of reality. Through the collective human consciousness, Emily could sense the quantum state of every particle in the universe. The information flowed through the network and into the Builder calculations. Entropy reversal equation solved, Amanda announced with amazement. Implementing universal quantum reset. Emily felt the moment when the calculation completed. Across the universe, entropy began to reverse. Stars that had been dying became young again. Planets that had grown cold began to warm. The universe itself became young again. It worked, Sarah said in wonder. The entropy reversal is stable across all monitored regions. Emily removed her headset and looked around at her colleagues. The mysteries that kept us awake at night, she said, have become the keys to saving everything that exists. Years later, Emily sat in her retirement home on Earth, watching the sunset. The sun looked exactly the same as it had when she was young, because in a very real sense it was young again. The entropy reversal had reset the age of every star in the universe. She thought about the signal she had detected so many years ago and how it had led to humanity joining the galactic community. The aliens had been looking for a species that could solve impossible problems, and they had found exactly what they needed. Human creativity, chaotic thinking, and willingness to try solutions that seemed impossible had saved the universe itself. The mysteries that once kept scientists awake at night had become humanity's greatest gift to all existence. Emily smiled as she watched the young sun set behind the horizon, knowing that billions of years from now, other scientists would still be watching the same sunset, still solving mysteries and still pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The universe was safe, and the adventure of discovery would continue forever.